Hello everyone, Nikki here. So when was the last time you got some feedback, particularly some tough feedback, and how did you handle it? If you are like most people, you probably took it personally because it's very, very hard not to, isn't it? If you're a creative person putting your work out there, it's pretty tough when someone kind of goes, didn't like it. And it feels amazing when people love your work. You feel boosted, you feel like you can do anything. But it's those times we get the tougher feedback that I think as creatives we really need to get skilled at in learning how to process it and deal with it effectively. Because my belief is if you get good at dealing with the harsher feedback well, you can really thrive in your creative career. And if you don't get good at that, then the likelihood is you'll make some bad decisions, because we can really catastrophize when we get bad feedback. And I'm basing this blog today on a recent experience of this. I'm going to share a personal story of what I went through when I got some harsh feedback, because I actually came up with some thoughts and some questions for myself in terms of how to turn it around for myself. So let me tell you my story. So it was a very strange week. I had two events in the same week. One, I had an event for my creative community, which I ran, and it was fantastic. And we got tons of really positive feedback afterwards. We got people sharing on social media, thanking us, and of course it felt amazing. However, that was a lot of work and I got quite sick afterwards, and I had a very busy week. And then I had a gig on the Saturday night, and to be fair, it was not my shining night. I was not on form. I did the gig fine, I was professional, I showed up, I did my work, but tons of things went wrong. So at one point I knocked a music stand completely out the way, which threw me, and another song I completely forgot a verse, which threw the band, and then another song I had a complete coughing fit in the middle of the song, and I had to stop singing, take some water. My voice was really affected and I had to sing the rest of the song really struggling with this cough. So it was a really tricky gig, but I did it. I came away feeling a bit about it, but I kind of in myself felt like I did okay. I thought I did okay. However, I went to see a friend that week and he kind of went, I didn't think you were as good as normal, Nikki, and a couple of my friends were saying the same thing about you. And as soon as he said this, I just felt myself wanting to cry. In fact, I did start crying and I really took it personally. Even though rationally I knew he was right because I wasn't feeling very well that night, it still really hurt. It stung. And I went home and I actually cried my eyes out. I just felt so upset. And it was really interesting, how devastating I found this feedback, because rationally I knew that was not my greatest gig. I knew it in myself, but someone giving me that feedback really hit me in the gut. So I knew this was the moment to actually turn this experience around, because the problem is, gang, if you are the sort of person that tends to take things personally, what you're not doing is you're not being objective in that moment. And in that moment, it can sometimes lead you to making really bad decisions, or throwing your toys out the pram, or going, well, I'm not going to be in your band anymore, or just doing something that's not effective. So the first thing I think we need to recognise is, are you catastrophizing? Are you over-personalizing it? And to learn how to be objective in the moment and isolate what the feedback's about. People aren't trained to give feedback, and they might just go, you weren't as good. But if you get them to isolate the person who's giving you the feedback, if you can actually get them to isolate, well, what specifically isn't working for you, then it gets you to have more clarity on either the part of your creative practice isn't working so well, or it's about what their needs are. So it might be something that you just didn't know. So in this instance, my friend said you weren't as sparkly as normal. So he wasn't really giving me feedback on my singing ability. It was my energy and my radiance. And I thought, well, that's fair enough. That is true. I recognise that. So just by isolating it, it helps you to, and to being more objective about it, helps you to process it and learn from it. The next bit I would say is learning how to reframe the feedback to help you feel okay about digesting it. So reframing it is looking at it from a different perspective. Sometimes when we get feedback, we catastrophize by going, oh my God, I'm just no good anymore. I'm not supposed to be a singer, or we overblow it. Whereas if we reframe it and find an angle on the feedback that can help us feel better, then we're more likely to grow from it. So my reframe in that moment was, hey, I'm normally really frightened to get feedback and it's just happened. Isn't that great? And I actually started to feel good about it. So that was the way I reframed it. Reframing, I think, is one of the things I teach more than anything else when I coach people, because it's the perspective you bring that will help you to grow or not to grow. The third thing I would say is I would ask yourself what's really going on. So that question is about what can you go underneath that experience where you got the bad feedback and reflect on your own creative practice. Sometimes, in my experience, when people underperform, there's a couple of things going on. Either they're in the wrong kind of work. So you might be doing work that isn't playing to your strengths. So for example, I know a photographer who is amazing at intimate photographs of people, but she was sent on a job where she had to take a picture of a celebrity event, and they weren't so brilliant because it just wasn't really playing to her strengths. So that was what was really going on for her. That wasn't where her niche lied. Sometimes it's about you're just not as motivated as normal, and it might be time to do something new or take a leap of faith, start a new project. So what is really going on? And the last thing is use it as useful training ground. I think feedback is really, really important for growth. I think learning to get better at it will help you thrive in the future. So I think use it as training ground for yourself. It's like growing a muscle. If you can get good at feedback, it can help you take more risks and be really bold and brave with your creative work. So that's all I got for you. I'd love to have your feedback as well. If you're good at getting feedback, what do you do? What are your insights on giving or receiving feedback, actually? Because that's also a skill. All right, lots of love. See you soon.